to have the most receiving yards in the Super Bowl. I sent out Xavier Worthy at plus 450. Xavier Worthy at plus 450 for a 2% play. I was going to fire 3% play, to be honest with you, because the source was so sharp. But I got to manage risk correctly. So I know I'm going to have more props. At a plus 450, 2% was more than enough. I let my guys know as long as you're getting plus 400 or better, where 20% we break even, I think it's plus Yves. 21 Nashville at minus 115, 23 Vancouver at plus 150, and 27 St. Louis at plus 180. Again, the hockey has not been hot. NBA game 539, Chicago plus 4, 538 under 234, Denver, Philly. 535 under 231 Dallas, Detroit, and also 542 San Antonio plus the 3. College buckets where we've been red hot. 872 St. Louis plus the 1, 878 under 149 Iona Marist, 885 over 144.5 Fairfield Quinnipiac, and 893 over 125 Siena Marist. Small board. That's what we're looking at so far.
What's interesting is I don't think people realize Kareem Hunt has a rushing touchdown in 4 straight games.
That's true.
They're either saving Pacheco for this game or he came back and is just not 100% healthy. He just doesn't quite look right, but Kareem Hunt has had success. And you mentioned Philly. I think we fully expect either Jalen Hurts or Saquon Barkley, maybe both, to have a rushing touchdown. But here's what's interesting. In the playoff games, Prez, the Chiefs have rushed for a touchdown in both, and they've allowed a rushing touchdown in both. So there's been multiple scores. Mahomes has rushed in. Kareem Hunt has had success on the goal line. So, Kelsey's really their only big red zone, big body target in there. Xavier Worthy is all about speed. And then other than that, their rushing game when they get inside the 5 is probably their best weapon outside of throwing it to Kelsey. So it's minus 145 in Vegas right now. So I really like this one as long as it stays below that minus 160 mark. I don't think these teams are going to take many chances when they get inside the 10. You got to come away with points in a game where the line is telling you it's going to be close. I don't see a lot of risky plays inside the 5. I think they run it, and I think both of them get a rushing touchdown. Let's talk Missi for the Pelicans. 16.5 points, rebounds, and assists. And Prez, as you know, when we're looking for these props, we're really looking to try and find these streaks, try and find these guys that are going to go on a 5-1, 7-2 run. We did it with Julius Randle under his 3-pointers. We got a lot of traction out of that one. Sadly, he pulled a muscle last night, so I think he's going to be out. Let's take a look at what's going on with Missi. He's having a great season, but he seems to be slowing down here a little bit. So from November 20th to January 5th, he played 25 games, and he went over this total in 20 games, so a very high percentage. But since then, he's gone under in 7 out of 10 games, and the biggest factor could be this fatigue coming from the season, but also Zion is back. He has played 12 games with Zion Williamson this season, and he's gone under in 10 of those games. The last 2 games that he's played with Zion, he's only had 5 PRA and 8 PRA. So what we're seeing is now that Zion is back, some of these stats that Missi's been accumulating are going away and going away fast. And he gets a brutal matchup, Boston, against centers, first in points allowed, third against rebounds allowed, and third in assists allowed. So you get Zion that's playing tonight. You get a tough matchup. As long as Zion Williamson is playing, I think we can focus on Missi under his points, rebounds, and assists until the books catch up. We're going to take a couple overs for today's matches. We're going to take Anderson and Vandenberg over 3.5 sets, and we're going to take Aspinall and Gilding over 3.5 sets. Basically, this bet is each guy just needs to win 1 set, and they're both kind of the same. Anderson's a big favorite, but he's lost 3 matches in a row. I don't see him steamrolling anybody. They're ranked 14th and 18th in the world. And then Aspinall and Gilding, Aspinall beat him 4-0 in the last tournament, so Gilding's got the big revenge spot. And outside of that game, Aspinall has not been beating anybody pretty big. So you parlay those 2 overs together, and you get minus 110. Anderson, Vandenberg over, and Aspinall, Gilding over.
With Vancouver, their last 3 games, they're starting to play some defense. This was a Vancouver team that was very good last season and all season long. Not the greatest start for this team, and a lot of sort of white noise around this team in the last month or so with TJ Miller and Elias Pettersson, and who's going to move. Miller wants to get moved, and these guys don't get along. And we don't hear what goes on in the dressing room, but what they're doing on the ice now is they're playing some very good defense. Only 4 goals allowed across the last 3 games and wins. And getting wins, it's infectious. You start to win games. You start to believe in yourselves again. They're only a point, I believe, out of a playoff spot right now, despite the fact that the season that they've had. They're a win today. It's win today in Dallas, and they leapfrog the Calgary Flames and into that eighth spot. When you look at from a totals perspective, and that's what I want to do with a couple of these games today, I want to look at a totals perspective. You look at the Dallas Stars at home. They have the league's best under record at home this season, 16-7-3 at home. That's been a very profitable angle, taking Dallas unders, and they've been a very good team with that. But you look at the Canucks, and I mentioned a team that is starting to win games and play some very good defense as well too. You want to take the live dog, but I think the better bet here is taking the under. I think they go in, they play another low-scoring game, similar to what their last game was like, and this is one of those 2-1, 3-1 type of games. So that's where I'm leaning here. I'm leaning the under here. I think that's the right play. And we've seen games this past week. The 6s are turning into 5.5s. The 6.5s are turning into 6s. Teams are starting to play better defense. These games are becoming much more meaningful, and the points are much more meaningful. So we're seeing some deep being played and some low-scoring games across the NHL this week. As far as records go, the Avs in the first period at home, they in 26 games, they've only led 5 times, Prez. 5 leads after 20 minutes. 14 times they've trailed. 7 times they've been tied after 20 minutes. You are down 16.8 units if you are betting Colorado first period money lines on the season at home. Not a good stat for a team that we normally think gets out early and buries teams. And then the fact that I think they're still adjusting to the fact that Rantanen's no longer with the team. I mentioned it earlier. It's similar to a player being injured, where it has a trickle-down effect on all the lines and the power play number 1 unit. They're still adjusting to it. I wouldn't want to lay such a big price on the Avs, regardless of what the result is tonight. I think the over is the better play here. 2 teams struggling, in need of points, and struggling defensively. I think we see some goals. Or you can look at it on the season. Columbus, when playing the second game of a back-to-back this year, Prez, are 0-7. That you can't ignore that. You cannot ignore an 0-7 run on a season. They just don't play well in back-to-backs. Elvis was great in net tonight, last night. Ironic that it happened in Vegas. Elvis has left the building. We'll see who's in goal for them tonight. I just can't see him playing back-to-back games. And this Utah team is starting to play a little bit better as well too. They're creating more XG, and I think that's the important thing. When they were losing games and they went through that horrible streak at home where they lost like 12 or 13 games, they just weren't creating chances. And if you're not creating chances, you're not going to get the puck luck. You're not going to score goals. They are creating those chances now. I like them in this spot here. It's you're going to have to pay a premium to take them, but you can take them in regulation, Utah in regulation, and you can probably get minus 120, minus 130 on this team right now. I think that streak continues for Columbus, and they go to 0-8 on the second of a back-to-back.
Some of the sharp stuff, under 1.5 for shortest touchdowns. For under 1.5 yards for shortest touchdown, minus 175. Both teams to score first quarter, no, minus 130. Eagles under 1.5 fourth down conversions, minus 150. Anthem under 125 seconds. That's now 123. That's a funky one this year because, that's a funky one this year too, because we actually have, for the first time ever, we had 2 different markets up because this dude's singing it, John Batiste, I guess his name is. I'm not too familiar with him. But I guess he's done anthems in the past where he's hardly sang, all instrumental, or maybe sang a few words or whatever. So we put up 2 different markets, first word to last word, like a traditional one. And then just in case there is no singing, which I can't imagine on the world's biggest stage, but just in case, we put like first instrumental note to last instrumental note. That's an extra 10. That's like 135 seconds. So yeah, the anthem can often be a bit of a mess. So we're trying to alleviate,
Right.
and it takes so much action too. It's like, a lot of these Super Bowl props, crazy grading, or, sometimes you got to grade. It's just all these gray areas and stuff with some of this crazy stuff. But,
Well,
the anthem takes so much action.